I think everyone feels that way. I mean, it's not an unusual feeling, but I really feel blessed. So, Damien, you know, plays bass, and who's a multi-instrumentalist and just a badass songwriter. And he and I have the same approach about a lot of things, but yet different enough to where the rub is just straight up creativity. And Damien's, you know, my closest friend. I mean, if shit went down, I go to Damien's house, and Kelly, you know, and Dylan. So it's really nice to have that. I just feel very lucky to play with him, and he's on top of that, he's a monster musician and has really taken on the bass great, because I think Damien was primarily, initially a guitar player. That was, you know, the same way with me, and then really found this opportunity to make a relationship with the bass guitar. And let's face it, playing bass is really like being a singer. You know, you're loving it. It's up and down. It's focusing on one note most of the time, and the right note. So that's Damien. Mike Johnson it's almost like playing with Johnny Greenwood or something from Radiohead. It's like the dude plays everything really good, like really well. Like he can do it all, on top of being like the coolest hang and like this calming figure, and just a family man, and just kind of like does the right thing all the time. So I actually aspire to be like Mike. So not to get too, I getting deep about each of the guys, but they mean a lot to me, and it's a pleasure and an honor to play with them. Jack is really good. He's just music comes from the right place for him. He primarily plays keyboards, but he can play other instruments, and he sings, and he's a lyricist, and he's also from the desert. So I'm in my 30s, Jack's in his 20s, so we're a different generation, but I think we all want the same thing, and that's to have fun playing music, and if we can cross over to where it can kind of feed itself, and where we can, I never expect to make a living playing music, but I do think that it's something that you do need to get to a point with it where it can pay for itself, so it feeds itself.
Ah, jeez, director.
Well, it's all black.
So, talk to me about the new record.
The new record. Well, let me just say this. You know this. I mean, making records is hard. If you want to make a record that's without compromise, it's hard. But having said that, I'm very excited about it. Not unlike any other musician or artist or anybody in the arts. I think everyone's newest material, I think, you know, it's in your frontal lobe, and it's been the focus of your concentration. But with that, you know, it's a growth. It's a step in the right direction. It's artistic, it's rockin', it's acoustic. We're exploring different ways to make sounds. So instead of maybe using an electric bass, we're using a stand-up bass in certain sections. Instead of using a synthesizer, we're using a B3. And the new record's gonna be good. I mean, it's something that I'm gonna be proud of. Whether other people like it or not, you never really know how that resonates with other people, but you know, we have an outlet for it, and our buddies at Cobra Side, they're all really excited about the preliminary roughs and all that. So I can talk about the new record forever. It's not quite done yet. For someone like me, they're never done, you know. But because I have this studio that I like to call a commercial studio, even though I'm my own biggest client. So I sort of made a lockout for myself, gave myself a great rate. And no, but there's a lot of really talented people on it, yourself included, and we recorded 18 songs, so 2 got axed pretty quick. But we'll revisit those.
So what was different about the process of writing this record?
Well, this record is really, I would say, WAXY's first real record. Real record being, we've done a body of work, We have another set of songs that we called a record. And now this we had, we wrote all the songs, really within a year, but I'd say even tighter than that. I'd say like within 3 or 4 months, and then didn't really start approaching them until we started really laying it down. But that's what's cool about it. It's that it's the same nucleus and written around the same time, which is what a record really should be. It's a remembrance of who you were at that time in your life. We're wannabes. We're phonies.
What did the desert mean to you?
Let me say this. The desert means everything to me. I think every part of the world, we can just focus on the United States. Every place has their scene, whether it's Seattle, whether it's Florida, whether it's New York, so those are the edges, Southern California, whether it's the inner, Nashville, Texas. Everyone has their local thing. Without getting too deep about it, music is really, the thought of a song being like a universal hit in so many ways is a foreign concept, because music really is a local thing. It's a tribal thing. It's like, this tribe has their chant, that tribe has their chant, and they don't even ever hear each other's, Yeah, unless they're, whatever, unless they're, but as the world has evolved and as things become, it's a universal market. But as far as the desert, to me, growing up, I'm 38 now, so when I was in those really influential years when you're a sponge, where you're still a kid, but you can drive, you're still in high school and you think that you're older, but it's that in-between period where I think you're so so influenced by the arts. I think the arts is one of the first decisions anybody as a human being can make. So that being said, when I was growing up here in the desert, there were so many great bands, like cool, maybe some people like in other parts of the world or the United States, the Jocks are the coolest, or maybe certain actors, something like that, or drama club, although that's not usually the case. But there were a lot of great young kids exploring music. And so to me, the desert is a place for all artists to kind of have space to roam. And it's sort of like walking on the moon out here, man. It's just like, especially those desert nights, and you can play outside and you don't not bother nobody. The desert means the world to me. I don't know exactly how it influences me. There are obviously bands before, I just loved Groovalopicus, I loved Green Eggs and Hammonds, I loved Polyphemus, I loved Lung Cookie. I really wanted to play in Lung Cookie for a period of time. Across the River, of course the classics with Caius and Unsound, those both got like, and there should have been t-shirts made. Which band do you like more, Caius or Unsound? Which side are you on? The Versus tour. And there's actually quite a few bands I'm missing. But I was so influenced at a young age to see people not too much older than me really like the spirit, the sincerity, and the momentum. Like it seemed like everyone was playing music, and that was like my first introduction to like not like going from like sleepovers at your friend's house to like going out to a spot, and like if you see a fight, there's no one to break it up. I'm getting all emotional because John is a rock and roll icon. If you give a shit about what happened here, which of course has been mythicized, is that the word? Mythologized. Because I was here when all that stuff was happening. It was just a bunch of kids drinking beer and doing something fun that was something that you could do. It was like a real natural thing. Like, why don't we just take a generator and go play somewhere where no one's going to fuck with us? So that's the catalyst. That's what happened. And John is an intricate part of that beginning. John has been a very, very good friend, and our families are intertwined in ways beyond music and stuff. And So I love John. John is like the big brother I never had. I have a big brother, but John is like the other big brother I never had. I love Alan. Alan's my bro forever. We'll fight about the will, but that sounds terrible. But John Garcia is a wonderful guy. He's been a wonderful supporter of WAXY. We've helped each other with each other's records, and just he's a special dude. He's a giving, generous guy by his nature, and I'm lucky enough to be in the inner circle with him. And so we've got a couple tours coming up. We're going to be opening up for John Garcia's solo band, the John Garcia Band, and it's about time. It's about fucking time, you know, because he's worked with so many people over the years, not just with the Josh Homme and Brant and all those wonderful, you know, great guys, or just with the Crystal Method, or with guys and Karma to Burn, or even with WAXY and all that stuff. So he's worked with a lot of great musicians, and so it's finally like getting his group of songs together. And I hope he makes a lot of records. I really do. So we're lucky enough to, John and I talked about kind of going on the road together, because we've been on the road together in the past, and it's sort of like a 3 year period of like it's finally coming together. So we're gonna play we're gonna open up for John Garcia's band in Australia, and a pretty good string of shows in Europe in 2014 at the end of the year. And I'm just excited because we all like each other, man. It's like it's not like bands coming together and label and like just competitive, like fuck you, or you're cool, or it's just we all know each other already. So it's very natural, it's very organic. I think that we're gonna do justice by opening up for him and getting the crowd ready to see, you know, one of the great vocalists of his generation. You know, it's funny. That's actually an easy question to answer. This is what I love about music. To me, it is the only thing that I know that is actual magic. Music is magic. You can listen to your favorite songs. You can be a musician. You cannot be a musician. Doesn't matter. If there's certain songs that hit you, and me being a musician and sort of an analyzer and sort of a music maker or producer, is I can know what the bass line's doing. I can know what the drums are doing. I can know what the singer's doing, and I can know what they're doing all together. But when it works, when it really works, whether it's live, whether it's on a recording, I can analyze it to death. But what it actually is happening is this magic of harmonics and personality and frequencies coming together, and it's straight fucking magic, man. Like it doesn't matter what genre it is. There's two kinds of music. There's good and bad, and it really is that simple, you know. And so that's my biggest love of music. You know, it's a crazy industry. It's so different from film, because film, you can make the shittiest piece of shit fucking dumbass, fucking stupid ass movie, and everyone's got like unions, and everyone's got their fucking 401ks, and it's 300 people to make the biggest piece of shit you could possibly make. In music, you really only need one person. Now, some people get really annoyed, like, oh, have you heard of this band? No, I've never heard of that band. Fuck off. I'm like, where are they from? Yeah, send me a link. Let me check it out. You know, so it's never ending. It's one of the earliest. It's the earliest form of art. People would get a fucking piece of chalk or bone or bark or sap, and they'd write on a wall, and they'd make these stick figures, and then they'd chant around. They'd take two rocks together. They'd chant around at fire. So music it's a never-ending source. It's a never-ending backdrop for expressing feeling and emotion. So there can never be enough songs. There can never be enough expression or creativity with music. You know, so to me, music, you know, it's an enhancer of life. It makes life better. Some people get a little fucked up with it, a little screwy with it when they want to, you know, make money with it, which is a joke. You know, but you know, you do these things because you enjoy doing them, and if you have realistic expectations for it, the rest doesn't matter as much. You know, you do what you can to make it cool, and it's not just about the music people play, it's about the people playing it. That's kind of today's world in a lot of ways. But yeah, music's real magic, and that's what I love about it. You know, there's a great book called Singers on Songwriting, and they've got a bunch of different, you know, they edit it every couple of years, and you know, everyone from Madonna, whether you consider her a songwriter or not, or you know, Lou Reed and Keith Richards and all that stuff. And you know, it's great toilet reading. That's where I usually read it. And there's a kind of a silver lining through all of it, and I think a lot of it is, you know, you hear people say they just kind of grab it out, you know, whatever. They just sort of it comes to you. And so for me, most of the songs come from guitar. So I'll just be playing, I'll just be screwing around on a song. So it's a mindset to explore. So that's part of it. But then once you kind of get into something, I really think of the parts as shapes. So a verse is a shape, a chorus is a shape, a bridge is a shape, and then it gets a little gray on how you want to get into those sections with the transitions. And I'm all about the transitions. Sometimes you put pauses, sometimes you put a cool little riff. You know, like one of my favorite things that sort of taught me the transitions was in Black Dog. Is you know, there's a riff that Jimmy Page does. Is he doesn't put any other part of the song, but just before the last chorus, and it's the coolest little guitar riff. You know what I mean? And so that had a mega influence on me. And so that's where you do something only one time. But that really is my approach to songwriting. So I'm more of like a power chord guy more than a single note guy. So I've got these sort of chunky hands. I kind of consider them like penguin hands almost, you know, like I'm very chunky and I hit my strings hard. I'm not particularly delicate. You know, if I can't hit a string hard and have it ring as long as possible, I think my technique's off, which I need to work on, by the way, because you can play light on stuff. But that is basically my approach to songwriting. I think of them in sections, and like if there's 2 or 3, and I'll also kind of work on 3 or 4 or even 5 songs at a time. And if I get really focused, I'll be really focused on 2 or 3 because they're all related. And sometimes I'm like, this song's really not working, but this song sort of is, but this is missing a section. So I'm gonna take a song from a section from this song and pop it over here. And I've got no guilt over that. 0 guilt. I'm like,
Well, you're really only bastardizing your own words. So.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, you know, it'd be great to get them both. But what I'm really going for, I think my dad instilled this into me, and I don't know if it's happening or not, but I'm really trying for every song to be great. I want every song to be the best it can be, you know, and that slows me down sometimes. You know, I don't know if that's the right approach, but it's sort of just like it's sort of in me that everything that's on there, it's relatively deliberate, you know, and thought out, even though it comes from a spontaneous spot. There is no right or wrong way to approach writing music. For me, I would say 75 to 85% of the time, it's I got a guitar on me or I got a keyboard around me, and I'm just looking for patterns. So for me, as far as this popular style of music is concerned, there are 3 sections. There's verses, choruses, and bridges, and then the transitions between each section. The newer WAXY material, it's just a culmination of who we are and our growth, you know, and who we are as people. I'm a very different person than I was from 6 months ago, and it changed me quite a bit. And it gets harder and harder to make good friends as you get older, you know, and sometimes, you know, we're kind of always searching for that, or I'm always searching for. I'm a people person, and I think people are, and your friends, and not just people in general, but the people that are in your world, I hold them at the highest value. I hold it more valuable than interrelationships between people and friends are more valuable to me than anything else. More valuable than an instrument, more valuable than your savings, more valuable than money. And when your world gets rocked a little bit, it certainly changes you. And this set of songs, I think, are in general a little bit more mature. I think they're, I don't know. I just like them. Some are easier than others, you know. But there's a pretty good diversity in it. I think there's some really cool acoustic. I guess you could call them ballads, but like not loud in your face. And I think there's some definitely good riff rock stuff that is synonymous with what I feel we do, you know. I think it was Sarah Vaughan, famous jazz singer. Is that Sarah? Yeah. Sometimes you sing an off note, but she would just deliver it, and because it's deliberate, that's what I wanted to do. There are only so many notes you can play, and I think 12, right? And you've got all your different, you know, when you start combining those, you've got all the different shapes and patterns and scales and all that. But for me, you have to challenge yourself. No matter, you can only be who you are. That you can't escape yourself. We are locked into who we are. And as you get older and older, and as far as music is concerned, whatever career you're going down, there's no way around creating. There's no way around creating your own process. That just happens, and it's a wonderful journey. It's, you know, but then that means you're going down this way and you're not going down that way. So there's no way around that. So my approach is to try your hardest. Try your hardest to be different, because you can't be, but you can, you know. So or you just try your. It depends what you're going for. I mean, like people that I love are like the Beatles, of course, and the Stones and all that stuff, the classic stuff, but like Tom Waits and like Vince McGroney. I mean, I know it's kind of weird to say those two back to back, but like their body of work is always constantly changing, but you know, it's them, you know? So that's, you know, I try to go from the greats that way. Well, when I graduated college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I really didn't, you know. Two things kind of ended for me at the same time, and that was I grew up playing tennis my whole life. I was never good enough to be a pro. Had some injuries and stuff, but just not quite a good enough athlete. And school ended, and I didn't really want to go to school for any reason. And so I got into recording people. I studied recording in school, and I'm like, so I think being able to capture got me into what am I going to do today? Well, there's no one knocking on my door to work with me, so I'll start writing some songs. We talk about the desert a lot. It's sort of a catchphrase. It's a pretty diverse place here. And you got two deserts. You got the low desert, and then you got the high desert. And the high desert is, they're both vastly different. So yeah, I mean, this desert, this Southern California desert, has a pretty esteemed history. I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, there was the heyday with all the guys and, you know, Frank Sinatra and the, what's that group called? The Rat Pack. You know, you got the Rat Pack so that was cool, and all these wonderful houses being built, and, you know, rich, aka successful people wanting a getaway because the weather's wonderful here and most of the year. And then you have the people that take care of it. You know, then you kind of have the rest, along with a growing world. So the desert's grown in popularity or in population the same way every other place has grown. And it's cool, you know. So you've got that gentrified sort of thing, but then there's still a lot of, I mean, you can't build on a mountain. You know, those San Jacinto's mountains and beyond. I mean, the desert's sort of surrounded by mountains, which makes part of it what makes it unique, and have its own water source. And it's sort of like a beautiful cage in a lot of ways. You know, like it's hard to get out of this goddamn place. Although it being a good place to be. So there's always that, you know, juxtaposition or that dichotomy. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, you can be in a wonderful spot, and then you go outside and there's like 8 scorpions, a gazillion cockroaches, and a rabbit being eaten to death over here, you know what I mean? And then over there is a nice green golf course, you know. It's funky, but yeah, it is what it is, and I do love the mountains, and you know, being able to get up there. That's another part of it. I mean, there's the low desert, high desert. There's also Idlewild, and Garner Valley, and Anza, which is like this rock desert thing, which is with pine trees and shit, and it snows every winter. Squirrels, for example, you know. So it's a good spot here. It's a very, very good spot. You just, you know, it's slower here, so you might think that you're missing out on big things, or other parts like cities like Los Angeles or San Francisco, where I think some people long for the safety and the danger of a big city. I think the desert, you can feel like maybe you're missing out on stuff, but you just have to make it. You have to make your own thing here. You got to be tuned into it. But it really is this thing that's so great about no matter where you are from here, as far as the low, high, desert, is you can find your own space here. And that's what people love about it from other places coming in. You know, they experience the heat, they experience the wonderful things that go on here as far as the events that happen. But if you're an artist, it really is a place that you can afford to live at, and you can really tap into the vastness of it. And I certainly do, you know.
Right.